this is often for me how things start. You know, I just have I'll sit at the piano, and after 2 hours of wasting time at it, something will be there. It's like the beginning of Kodibas. You know, I ended up eventually just going. And that idea, there's just something that happens, you know, an idea will be articulated, like if I'm playing or I suppose at the computer, and there's just something about it, and you know that it's a seed that you can plant and something will grow of it. So Corybas has had a great life so far, in that the New Zealand Chamber Soloists premiered it, took it overseas, have toured it, have played it a lot, and recorded it, so it's out on CD now. And they have a special relationship with it because it's written for them. You know, there's a unique thing there. I wrote it after I had done a lot of exploration of Greek folk music and ancient Greek music as well. And I had come across some music that used odd time signatures, and that's very common in, you know, Macedonian or Balkan music and Middle Eastern music. You have that a lot. It's like no big new thing or anything. But what's interesting for me is the idea of these things having been so established now that if you think of a piece that's in 7/8, it's like a dance that you have in Greece. But what can happen now is that you can move between these odd meters within a piece and make it feel okay, because it's all about feeling okay with the rhythm, so that if you're listening you don't keep tripping up, you know, with what you're hearing, but you feel like there's a logical flow to the beats and the downbeats and the rhythm. And so with Kodibas I started with an idea that was in 11, and I just really liked the ambiguity of it. Like you couldn't quite tell where's the downbeat, and that's an interesting compositional thing to play with, which is you have a clear rhythmic idea, but you have a kind of tonal ambiguity. And so when you're listening you go, I'm not quite sure how to count this, but it feels very natural. You know, that's the goal. And then the big section in Kodibas, which takes us to the climax and all of that, is something in a very unique time signature, which is 17/8, which is quite a long bar. It's got 17 beats in it, but they're grouped in a certain way. So you have a 6 and a 4 and a 7, like a 10 and a 7, and it works in a certain way. And it's like poetry in that you have lines with a certain amount of syllables, and you can play with the rhymes of the rhythm. There's a thing that you can do. And what happens for me is when I'm writing, and this is what I hope you can hear when you listen to the piece, is it's a huge amount of fun, like it's a huge amount of play to be playing with these rhythms. And so you're always kind of moving, is it going to land, is it going there, is it coming? And you just kind of always engage with this, but not in a cerebral way. You know, it's not like you're listening and you're going 15, 16, 17, 1. You're not doing that. What you're doing is you're just sort of feeling it go somewhere and it lands, and that feels great. It's important that it feels great, or something unexpected happens, and so on and so forth. So really Corybas is built on this idea of rhythmic play, and it is a lot of fun rhythmically. It's very sad tonally. You have both of these things. You know, you have the energy and the positivism in the rhythm, the buoyancy of the rhythm, but you have a kind of gravity in the tonality pulling you down. And these things, they become companions through the work, and they sustain each other or balance each other through the piece. So another way of talking about the piece is that it's very folky, in the sense that the melodies and the way the violin is played, especially quite low and gypsy-like, it has this sort of feeling that it's come from Greece, Mediterranean, or the lower Balkan states, or somewhere from around there. So stylistically, it feels like maybe contemporary folk music. That's another way of thinking about it. And the mode that it uses, or modes that it uses, are very much like you would get in Greece or Turkey. You know, so it has that quality to it. And then dramatically, it's very much in the kind of classical world, which is builds, climax, you know, recedes and ends. So it has that sort of traditional structure. And so, in essence, what you're hearing in that piece is this kind of coming together of contemporary rhythm, very old folk music ideas, and classical tradition of form and structure, which is really where composers live now. We live in a world where it's just everything is there for you, and you just take, borrow, steal, whatever it is you want to do, it's all available and it's all okay. The way a piece ends is so important, right? And that's demonstrated in the absolute best way as a lesson when you listen to, say, some romantic repertoire that's way too long, goes on much more than it should, and the audience is kind of like this, getting towards the end of it, and then it has this big 20-second massive ending, and everybody starts clapping like crazy at the end, and that's a great lesson, because that composer knows, well, that's how you wake the audience up and you get a good reaction, and I'll get another gig, and then people go, oh, very good, very good, very good, very good, very good piece, and you think, actually though, that's not the experience that you had. And what you learn from that as a composer is, if you wanted to, you could manipulate an audience in that way. It's there as an option, right? Chamber music is different. It allows you to do things in a different way because it's intimate. It's like having a conversation. It's not like I have a megaphone and I'm talking to you. I'm just talking to you this way. And what that means is, with a piece like Kodibas, for instance, it has huge dramatic trajectories. It's got all guns blazing, lots and lots of fire. But the end is this really long tail down to nothing. And what's really interesting about that is you, the composer, have to have the courage to accept that when you do that, the audience is not going to explode into applause at the end. And in some ways, what you really wish for is that the piece could do this and no one would make any noise afterwards, that it would be silent. It would be a beautiful way to end.